This is Ruben here, coming to you Sports Ruben Life. This is another episode where I'm going to be talking about NFL possible playoff ramifications. The Seattle Seahawks play the San Francisco 49ers. This is going to be a great game, right? You want to really look out for this. There's so many storylines, right? This game is for all the marbles. And when I say all the marbles, I don't mean winners in the playoffs and the losers out the playoffs. What I mean is the winner is the first seed, right? Home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and they have a first week bye, right? They get to rest, they get to prepare themselves, right? They earned it, right? The loser is the fifth seed, right? Has to play the preceding week after the season is over, and they have to keep going. Now, San Francisco is rolling. They're playing very good, right? San Francisco is in the driver's seat in this whole deal here, right? So the thing with them is like, when you look at notable wins, right? When we look at these teams that have very good records in their division, sometimes you can have a situation where they're just playing a lot of teams that aren't very good and they're beating them. They're beating who they're supposed to beat, and they get beat against good teams. So let's look at their record. San Francisco, I'm going to break this down, and then we're going to talk about the injury report and who has more to lose as a result of losing home field advantage throughout the playoffs, right? So let's look at San Francisco, right? Notable teams that they beat: the Steelers, the Browns. People say the Browns aren't that good, but they are good, right? And then they beat the Rams, right? Winning record, right? They lost to they beat the Packers, right? They beat the Packers and they beat the Saints and they beat the Rams again, right? So San Francisco has some good wins. They only have 3 losses, right? So who did they lose to, right? They lost to the Seattle Seahawks. That's one of their losses. They lost to the Baltimore Ravens, which everybody's losing to because they're very good. The Baltimore Ravens are the team to beat in the AFC, right? And then so they also lost to the Falcons, which is kind of a weird situation. They lost to them 29-22. They should have got that victory, but Atlanta somehow got away with that victory. So if they wouldn't have lost to Atlanta, they would have been already clinched the first round bye, and they would have rested a lot of their players, and they would essentially had like a 3-week span of rest, right? And then so you could have got a lot of people healthy. You could have mended some bruised bones and tissue and all that good stuff like that. And you could have got yourself in that position, right? So the 49ers beat good teams. They lost to some good teams. They lost to the team that they're playing. So there's an indication that there's some parity at the top, right? At the top, at the upper echelons of the NFL, there's some parity there. So that being said, let's look at Seattle and who they beat throughout the season, right? Is their 11-4 record indicative of the fact that, is it because they've gotten some easy wins, right? So who did they beat of note, right? They beat the Steelers, right? They beat the Rams, they beat the Browns, right? So those are good teams. They beat the 49ers, who, by the way, they're playing for all the marbles, for home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They also beat the Vikings. The Vikings are in the playoffs as well, right? So both Seattle and San Francisco have beat playoff caliber teams. Seattle's beat some teams that they're going to see in the playoffs, possibly the Super Bowl. Who knows if they make it, right? Who did they lose to, though? They lost to the Saints. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Rams, and they lost to the Cardinals, which, they weren't supposed to lose that last game. That could have put them in the driver's seat for this game too, right? And so that being said, right, they're in a position to now go deep in the playoffs just by being in the proper position. In other words, being the number 1 seed. It gives you a leg up. It lets a lot of people rest. And if you're already good enough to be the 1 seed, then you're going to be able to go deep in the playoffs, right? It's set up that way, right? It rewards regular season victories, right? That's kind of the whole purpose of it, or else people just play to just make it in the playoffs and then go from there. So both these teams have some notable wins and they have some notable losses, right? Their losses have come against good teams. So when we look at this game, you say to yourself, like, what's the difference maker in this whole situation? Well, the obvious thing is the Marshawn Lynch acquisition as a result of their running back being injured. Their star running back, Carson, who led the team in rushing with 1,230 yards. He's a very capable young running back. It's the worst time to get injured, right? Because now they're taking on Marshawn Lynch and some other guy, and they're going to probably split the duties. But the question is, do they have enough energy in those games? Are they going to have enough stamina? Are they going to be in football shape? Which I seriously, seriously doubt. Matter of fact, it's almost 100% certainty that they're not in football shape, which is to be expected, right? There's no slight on Marshawn Lynch. There's no slight on the other guy. The deal is that these guys are coming in and an inopportune time, and that injury to Chris Carson couldn't come any worse. So to defend the Seattle Seahawks, you have really great coaching and you have a really good field general in Russell Wilson, right? Now, Russell Wilson is a guy that, he hasn't got sacked a lot. He's not somebody that is going to take, he's very efficient this year. That's one thing you got to give him credit for. He's very, very, very efficient, and he's up in the league leaders and quarterbacks, and he's a very capable guy, right? There's nothing wrong with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is having a really good year, right? Let's look at his stats. He has 3,800 yards passing. He's probably going to go over 4,000 this year, right? And he has 29 touchdowns to 5 picks. He has a 107.3 rating, right? He's very, very accurate. 66.7% of his passes he's completing, right? And so with the average of 8.1 yards, which is pretty good, right? Which is, almost tops in the league, right? He's only below a couple people, about 5 people here, right? He's number 6 in that category, right? So he knows how to get the ball down the field. So Russell Wilson, the thing with him is that he has 47 sacks, right? And so 47 sacks is the top of the league. So that number is going to go up, right? Because of the fact that people are not going to respect the rushing attack. They're just not. For him to get sacked so many times, right? For him to get sacked so many times. Now remember this. The fact that he hasn't thrown more interceptions, because if you look at all the people that have had a lot of sacks, you have Kyler Murray with 10 interceptions. You have Jameis Winston with 28 interceptions. You have 15, 12, 14, 13. All these people that have a high sack count, they throw picks because now you don't have time to set up and maybe go to the next option, right? One more option, you can complete a couple of yards, right? You can keep the drive alive, right? And so that's where is important to note that when you have a depleted running back core, you're going to be suspect to getting more sacks. So San Francisco's defense, right? So let's look at defensively, right? Let's look at defensively. Where is, where do they sit in the whole deal here, right? So if Rams is rush, right? Their defense, how effective are they defense against the rush, right? And so you're already going to have that. So let's look at that. That's a very telling stat right there. That's going to be the difference in the game. There's only a 3.5 point spread or point differential that they think that San Francisco is going to win by 3.5 points, which is essentially a touchdown. It's not going to happen, right? What we have here is, let's look at the defense, right? And let's look at yards allowed and just, general defense, right? So you have the San Francisco 49ers, right? Defense, and let's look at yards rushing, right? Or yards per game, right? So San Francisco allows, they're in the middle of the pack. They allow roughly 111 yards rushing, right? And so they're real stingy with the passing, okay? Their defense is really stingy with the passing. They have the number 2 ranked defense behind the New England Patriots. So they have the number 1 NFC defense, right? So you have these guys, they give up some on the run, but they really slow the pass down. So you have Russell Wilson and company. Are they going to be able to produce offensively in the air? That's a huge mismatch there, and I suspect that San Francisco is going to take advantage of that. I think that San Francisco is going to recognize that their star running back is out. I think they're going to recognize that there's a hole in there. It's basically going to be a leaky faucet that you can't stop, right? So San Francisco now they have the game plan. They're going to blitz. They're going to go in there. They're going to try to disrupt the pass, right? And they're already good at doing that, right? They allow the fewest passing yards a game in the NFL right now, in the entire NFL, right? And nobody's close. So Seattle, they're going to have a really hard time scoring. I suspect that Seattle's going to score 10 points at most, right? I don't care how crafty you are. I don't care how good of coaching it is. You're in a situation here where San Francisco is just going to pin their ears back and just go full speed at them, right? And Seattle has a good team. Seattle's very capable, right? But you look at Seattle's passing defense, right? And where do they sit, right? It's going to be middle. Here it is. It's the middle of, no. They allow 263 yards in the air. Their defense, passing defense, is suspect. So that means that San Francisco not only can take advantage of it, right? Because San Francisco has like the number 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the number 7 ranked offense. So you have a depleted offense in Seattle that's not going to be able to dominate time of possession. Time of possession is going to be atrocious, right? And San Francisco runs the ball very well, right? San Francisco is number 1 in the NFC in run offense. So they're going to run the ball, time of possession. They're probably going to have long drives, and a lot of Seattle's drives are going to stall, right? Unless Russell Wilson has like an outrageous game, San Francisco's defense is going to be too much for them. So I don't necessarily think that San Francisco is going to have the ability to get the first round bye, and they could be out in the next week after that. Seattle, right? San Francisco has all the cards here, right? They have the advantage. They are playing well. They have a good defense, a good offense. It's a Super Bowl caliber team, right? When you look at the offenses, defenses, you keep seeing San Francisco and Baltimore, right? And then let's look at this stat, and this is one stat that would have made a difference. This would have been a completely different video, right? Is the Seattle Seahawks had the number 3 rushing offense in the NFL, right behind San Francisco, but you don't have Chris Carson and company. And he's the big factor. He got injured, and Marshawn Lynch and all that. The offensive line is still there. The receiving core is there. Their coaching staff is there. But the player that runs the ball has to be present, and he's just not. So I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. I don't think anybody can predict this game 100%, but I will say that San Francisco has the clear advantage in this game, and a 3.5 point spread is way low, right? I think this is probably going to be a 24-point game in terms of, I think it's going to be a blowout. So anyways, tell me what you guys think. I'm rambling here. Like, subscribe, tell me. I do videos all the time. Hit me in the comments. Talk to you guys later. Thank you.